G'day, I'm Peter Hager. I'm the local Greens councillor. I'm here with Carol, a local Greens member. We're just sort of discussing small issues. I thought today we'd do something really light, like revolution and counter-revolution.
And how to get revolutionaries.
Well, yeah. Are we in a revolution? Is there revolutionary change happening?
Is there?
Well, I've got my own theory. Being a Green, so I come from a ecological perspective. I think there's more than just humans. Like there's more than just human factors at work. There's planetary factors at work, which is what climate change is.
Yeah.
So for me, there's a revolution that happened in the late 60s, and it was things like the population bomb, and it was things like limits to growth by Club of Rome, and the president of the United States, Nixon, brought in the EPA and brought about the Clean Air Act and the Clean Water Act. There was fear of acid rain. There was this big thing coming from the science and from evidence that there is a limit to the human project.
Okay. And what happened to that?
So what happened is Nixon leaves in disgrace because corruption. He'd get away with it today, by the way.
Oh, absolutely.
He just carry on.
Looks like corruption light nowadays. Yeah. Anyway.
But by the time Reagan gets into power in 1979, 1980. The whole Republican Party has been overtaken by the Chicago boys, this neoliberal economics. But the underlying premise of it, at the baseline, is that there is no limit to the human project. No. That's the belief that underpins Reaganism. So the first thing he does is he rips the solar panels, these early solar panels that, what's his name, the Democrat president one term?
Oh, Carter.
Carter. Yeah, Carter had put those on the White House. He ripped them off, the first thing he did.
Yeah.
So there are no limits to the human project. Drill, baby, drill. That starts with Reagan. Nixon was, we need to respond to this stuff. So that's the revolution that happened. So the revolution was more than human. What we're living through today is the end of the counter-revolution. The Greens are a product of that as well. At the same time, you've got Chicago driving Reagan and Thatcher. You've got this other movement that says there are limits to the human. We do have a biosphere. Darwin was probably right, generally, not in the specifics, but in the general idea he was right, that we are an emergent property of this planet's biosphere, and we need to respond accordingly.
Yep.
So that puts us on the side of the revolution. We're dealing with this pushback from good old-fashioned small L liberalism, if you like, or this idea that there are no limits to the human project.
Yes.
And that I'm not talking about human people. I'm talking about this human progress project, or this we can take the light of consciousness and take it to Mars, to paraphrase Elon Musk.
Yes.
That is crazy.
Yes.
But it's a counter-revolution, and that's it will have to fall because science and evidence suggests it can't continue.
Yes, so we're heading to a tipping point, is what they're saying.
So the thing I think that you and I have been discussing earlier is how do we have those conversations with people and say that this is the real change that we're talking about. This is why people now in the UK, you either vote for reform and hate immigrants or you vote for the Greens. The smaller liberal parties like the Tories and the Labor are falling way behind because they no longer have a message to send.
Because they don't know how to move on from that liberalism. They actually are so sort of beholden to their corporate owners.
Yeah.
And we've got the same here.
Yeah, we have the same here.
We have
so
exactly the same.
If you think that there are no limits to the human, you think, well, we can build more renewables and we can drill new coal and gas. Doesn't make any sense.
No.
To me, it doesn't make any sense to you.
So it's completely inconsistent.
Yeah.
But the Greens actually go, all of our policies are evidence-based. And the evidence says we just can't keep going on the way we have and still continue to exist and continue to consume and continue to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
So that's the limit that we're heading towards.
Yeah, and the Greens movement is a product of that post-1960s science and evidence. The Silent Spring, Rachel Carson,
yes.
The population bomb, which again, like everyone says, he was wrong about population, but he was. If you take it broader and step outside the human and look at the biosphere has definitely suffered since the early 70s when that came out.
Yes.
We know that extinction rates are on the rise, and we know that liberalism doesn't know how to deal with it.
Well, the other thing around liberalism is going, underneath that biosphere is it actually doesn't know how to deal with the fact that it accelerates inequality.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing that's happening at the same time. And with this vast inequality, we know that each billionaire uses vast amounts of resources, to suit themselves. Yeah. And each of us is aiming to live a good life in this, reducing resource environment. But things are becoming more unequal and things are harder to where it's harder for us to live within that. So we are heading to a difficult point. So what's going to happen at the end of that?
I think, my theory of change is that there will be more than human factors that come in. Ideas are great, but they should respond to evidence. They shouldn't lead evidence.
Yeah.
I think, we are forming policies, and people say, but you'll never get to the majority in the society, in the smaller liberal society that we're in. I don't think that will be around for much longer. I think if we have the right policies, when things change and when there's dramatic change, those policies will be the things that people reach to. They already are. Like, people already reach for Greens policies, even though we're not in power.
Yes.
All the time.
Yes.
Gay marriage, the whole of Teal's policy base is basically lifted straight out of Greens policy page. Everyone loves David Pocock, and I'm sure he's pretty au fait with Greens policy.
Well, his wife used to work for the Greens. She was a staffer for the Greens, and that's where he got a lot of his policies from. So, we love him because he's actually running a lot of Greens policies.
Yeah. And the policies are sound, and the policies, particularly New South Wales Greens, are developed by the members, and they're developed with an understanding that we're part of an ecosphere, that we're part of a biosphere, and that we can't get out of that. There is no outside of that. It's a massive change of thinking, but it is the change of thinking that has to come.
I think the other challenge that we've got is with the rise of social media as well. People go down these rabbit holes of where getting their own echo chambers, but also disconnecting from reality and disconnecting from nature. And I think that is reaching its own conclusion as well. So all of those things are heading together. So what should our call to action be for people watching this video?
Oh, look, I have a 19-year-old at home, and I think the younger people are dealing with that social media. It's washing. They're learning to deal with it in ways that we never could. I think restricting kids under 16 is really dangerous because they don't develop those skills. We should be encouraging everyone to develop skills to deal with social media in the way that our 20-year-olds and 25-year-olds.
I think it's not just dealing with social media, it's actually dealing with inaccurate information.
Yeah.
It's actually helping everybody of all ages to understand what's the drivers behind any piece of information, whether it's a pamphlet, a book, or social media, and we don't have those skills often.
I've sort of come down in two sides on this because there is certainly a lot of misinformation out there. There's also more information, more accurate information than we could ever get before.
I know.
And that's fascinating.
But it's how you find the information.
It's how you find it. Yeah. So it's giving people the skills to sort that information, and developing them ourselves, and continually developing them ourselves when the new challenges come along. But there was always misinformation.
Oh, totally.
We ended up with lead in petrol because the New York Times thought it was a great idea, even though there were scientists at the time saying, this is crazy, this will cause brain damage. We knew that lead caused brain damage. We just didn't know the quantities. There was a pushback by the media at the time that were in power, like the papers of record, which was the New York Times or the Times in the UK. So it was never great. We can, and it will never be perfect, but we can continually work with what we've got inside the technology that we've got and try and make it better.
So what do we think people should do with what we've just put on the table, that we're actually heading to a tipping point, that there are things, we see inequality growing, we know that the biosphere is under stress, we see that there's a breakdown in a whole lot of other social components of the social fabric.
So think about your core beliefs and think about what's underpinning those. Take some time to get outside and touch grass.
I think that's a great strategy.
Celebrate the physicality of being a human animal. It has, touch and feel, touching someone else, touching someone that you love, someone that you're really attracted to. All of these things, that amazing things to do because they put you in touch with that part of us that is the biosphere. Get out and sit under a tree. Take a dog for a walk. Have a conversation with an animal. And we all
I do that a
this.
lot.
We all do this. Like, have a conversation with the dog, and know that your dog has a different personality than your neighbour's dog. I mean, once you've done that, you've already undermined the human supremacist belief system.
Yes.
We all know this at our core. We all practice this every day. It's taking it from just a practice and thinking about what we're doing. For me, I think that's really important.
I think that's really good. And living in the Bega Valley, we're really lucky.
Oh, so lucky.
Because we've got such wonderful places
absolutely.
to go to.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yes.